Imagine spending a luxury vacation in the Maldives, only to end up in a game of cat and mouse where nothing is quite what it seems. That's what happened to Sophie Parker's vacation when they collided in a chance encounter with a mysterious stranger. As Sophie races against time, she discovers that the most dangerous weapons are the secrets we think we can control, and in the end the surprises are unexpected. The Maldives stretched before me like a painting come to life, azure waters so clear I could count the coral formations 15 feet below. The seaplane banked gently, and I pressed my forehead against the cool window glass, momentarily forgetting, the laptop balanced on my knees. "Ms. Parker?" The pilot's voice crackled through my headset. "Amara Resort straight ahead." I closed my laptop, sliding it into my bag. A chain of overwater bungalows extended like fingers from a central island oase where white sand beaches ringed a lush tropical interior. After 18 months of non-stop work scaling Parker Tech from promising startup to Silicon Valley success story, I had finally given in to my CFO's insistence that I needed a break before I burned out completely. "Your blood pressure is in stroke territory, Sophie," Marcus had warned, booking the reservation himself. 2 weeks, no code, no calls. The seaplane touched down with a spray of water, gliding toward a wooden dock where a small welcoming committee waited. A woman in a crisp white uniform stepped forward as I disembarked, pressing her palms together in greeting. "Mrs. Parker, welcome to Amara. I'm Amina, your personal concierge." She draped a fragrant garland of frangipani around my neck. Your villa is prepared. Would you prefer to refresh yourself there, or would you like a tour of the property first?" The scent of salt water mixed with tropical flowers was intoxicating after months of recycled office air. "The villa, please." A young man named Ahmed loaded my luggage onto an electric cart, and we glided silently along wooden walkways that crisscrossed the lagoon. The quiet was disorienting after San Francisco's constant hum of activity. "Well, your accommodation is our premium overwater villa," Amina explained as we approached the end of a long pier. "Number 47. We've positioned you for maximum privacy and optimal sunset views." The villa was stunning, 1,500 square feet of sustainable luxury. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the Indian Ocean, while sections of glass flooring revealed colorful fish swimming beneath us. A private infinity pool seemed to merge with the horizon on my deck. "Your butler service is available 24 hours. Amina demonstrated the tablet that controlled everything from room temperature to requesting meals. "And this button connects directly to security if needed." Something in her tone made me look up, but her expression remained professionally neutral. After unpacking my minimal vacation wardrobe, mostly swimwear and light dresses, I checked my company's secure server one last time before forcing myself to set my devices aside. Marcus was right. I needed this break. At 34, I'd achieved more than most tech entrepreneurs twice my age. But the constant vigilance required to protect our revolutionary blockchain security protocols was taking its toll. As sunset approached, my stomach reminded me I hadn't eaten since a hasty breakfast in Dubai. I changed into a simple blue sundress and made my way toward the main island, where several restaurants dotted the shoreline. The resort's signature restaurant, built partially over the water with a bamboo and glass design that echoed the surrounding nature, caught my attention. At the entrance, a hostess offered me a choice between the main dining area and the bar. "Just one tonight?" she asked. "Yes, just me." The bar was quieter, occupied by only a handful of guests. I chose a seat offering a view of both the sunset and the entrance, a habit from years of corporate meetings where positioning mattered. "First time in the Maldives?" The voice came from 2 seats away, a man in his early 40s with sun-weathered skin that suggested extensive tropical experience. He wore linen pants and a white shirt with sleeves rolled to the elbows, revealing tanned forearms and an expensive diving watch. His accent was difficult to place, hints of South African maybe, but smoothed by global travel. "Is it that obvious?" I replied. "You have that discovering paradise look." His eyes were an unusual shade of gray, like polished steel, most first-timers do. The bartender approached, and the stranger recommended the house specialty, a concoction of local rum, passion fruit, and something called Island Spice. "I'm James," he offered as our drinks arrived. "Sophie," I replied, deliberately omitting my last name. Vacation or not, years of cybersecurity work had made me cautious about personal details. "Two new discoveries." James raised his glass. Over drinks, I found myself gradually relaxing. James spoke about the Maldives with intimate knowledge, the best snorkeling spots, which islands had the most interesting local culture, how the nation was dealing with rising sea levels. He asked thoughtful questions about my impressions so far, never pressing when I kept details about my work deliberately vague. Silicon Valley tech was all I'd revealed. Nothing very exciting. He smiled as if he knew I was downplaying things. "That tech is reshaping everything these days, isn't it? Especially financial systems." Something in his tone made me study him more carefully. "Are you in finance?" "International security consulting," he replied. "Mostly risk assessment for corporations." As the restaurant filled with dinner guests, I noticed a pair of men enter, both in their 30s, wearing resort casual clothing that nonetheless seemed carefully selected to blend in. They surveyed the room with calculated efficiency before taking a table near the entrance. One of them briefly made eye contact with James, who gave no visible reaction. "Another drink," James suggested, smoothly changing the subject. I should probably eat something first. I hadn't missed the subtle exchange. "The seafood here is exceptional. Would you care to join me for dinner?" Against my usual caution with strangers, I accepted. Over grilled local lobster and a crisp white wine, our conversation deepened. James revealed he'd worked in several global hotspots, though the details remained vague. I found myself drawn to his quiet confidence and the way his eyes seemed to miss nothing. "The world isn't always what it seems, Sophie," he said at one point, his expression serious. "Sometimes the most beautiful places hide the darkest secrets." Before I could probe further, a noisy group entered the restaurant. James's demeanor changed subtly, his shoulders tensing, eyes tracking the newcomers with practiced efficiency. Walking back toward our respective villas later, the moonlight silvered the wooden walkways. Gentle waves lapped against the pillars beneath us, creating a soothing rhythm. "Sophie," James said suddenly, stopping. "I need to ask you something that might seem strange. How much do you know about cryptocurrency security protocols?" The question hit uncomfortably close to my company's core technology. Before I could respond, a resort staff member approached with a message for James. He excused himself, promising to explain everything at breakfast the next day. That night, surrounded by luxury in my overwater villa, I couldn't shake the feeling that this chance meeting was anything but random. The gentle rocking of my villa on its stilts should have lulled me to sleep. But my mind raced with questions about James and his eerily specific interest in my professional specialty. I woke to the sound of urgent voices outside. The sun had barely crested the horizon, painting the water in shades of pink and gold. Wrapping myself in a robe, I stepped onto my deck to find two resort security personnel speaking with a manager on the walkway below. Their hushed tones carried across the still morning air. "The guest is insisting we search the entire property," the manager said. "We can't disturb everyone based on—" They noticed me and immediately fell silent. The manager plastered on a professional smile. "Good morning, Ms. Parker. I hope we didn't disturb you." "Is everything all right?" I asked. "Just a routine security matter. Please enjoy your breakfast, room service, or in our main restaurant." The forced casualness set off alarm bells. I checked my phone. 7:15 a.m., my scheduled breakfast with James. A quick call to the front desk confirmed my suspicion. James had checked out before dawn, leaving no message. In the bathroom, I studied myself in the mirror while brushing my teeth. My reflection looked the same. Dark hair cut in a practical bob, green eyes, the small scar above my right eyebrow from a childhood skateboarding accident. Yet something had shifted. The peaceful vacation mindset I'd barely begun to embrace had been replaced by the hypervigilance I knew too well. I dressed in resort casual, linen pants, a light blouse, and sandals that could handle uneven terrain if needed, and made my way to the main restaurant. Two men in suits stood out among the guests in vacation wear, speaking with the resort manager. One I recognized from the previous evening, the other was new. Both carried themselves with the unmistakable posture of law enforcement or military. I chose a table with sightlines to all entrances and connected to the resort's Wi-Fi through my secure VPN. While appearing to read news on my tablet, I ran a search on recent security incidents in the Maldives and checked Parker Tech's system. Looks nothing unusual on either front. My phone buzzed with an email notification from an encrypted address. The subject line read simply, "What you need to know, Jay." My pulse quickened as I opened it. "Your company's security protocols have been compromised. They know what you've built and they want it. Check your system logs for access attempts using credential set BP742. Trust no one at the resort. Delete this message." I kept my expression neutral as I read it twice, then followed the instructions. Our blockchain security system, the one that had catapulted Parker Tech from obscure startup to tech darling, protected digital assets for major financial institutions worldwide. The implications of a breach were catastrophic. From my tablet, I accessed our company's secure dashboard. No alerts showed on the surface, but when I ran a deep scan using administrator privileges, I found it, a sophisticated attempt to access our root directories using credential set BP742, originating from an IP address in the Maldives. Our automatic defenses had blocked it, but the attempt itself was concerning. Few people knew those credentials even existed. The two men in suits were now making their way through the restaurant, showing something on their phones to staff members. I ordered breakfast and ate methodically while activating additional security protocols remotely. Years of paranoia about corporate espionage had led me to build multiple safety nets into our systems. A shadow fell across my table. "Ms. Parker, I'm Agent Thompson, and this is Agent Chen." The taller man showed credentials from an international security organization. "We'd appreciate a few minutes of your time." "Of course," I gestured to the empty chairs. "Though I'm not sure how I can help." "We're investigating a person of interest who was seen with you last evening," Thompson said, showing me a photo of James on his phone. "James Kovac. What did you discuss during your dinner?" I maintained a calm exterior while mentally filing away the surname I hadn't known. "Nothing consequential. Travel experiences, local culture. We met at the bar and shared a meal." "Did he mention anything about his work or ask about yours?" Chen asked, his eyes never leaving my face. "He said he was in international security consulting, risk assessment for corporations." Thompson nodded slightly. "And your work?" "I run a tech company in Silicon Valley. I'm here on vacation." "Ms. Parker," Thompson leaned forward. "We have reason to believe Kovac may be involved in technology theft. If he contacts you again, we'd appreciate your immediate notification." They left me with a card bearing only a phone number. As they walked away, I noticed they spoke briefly with a resort staff member who glanced in my direction. "Baisu, in my villa, I secured the door and swept for electronic devices using an app on my phone. Finding nothing, I still kept my voice low as I called Marcus through our encrypted line. "Someone tried to breach our system from the Maldives," I said without preamble when he answered. "What? Are you sure?" His voice tightened with concern. "Positive, credential set, BP742. A sharp intake of breath. Those are your personal backup credentials. Sophie, what's going on?" "I'm not certain yet, but I need you to implement Protocol Obsidian immediately." "That's our nuclear option," Marcus protested. "It locks down everything and alerts." "Exactly. Do it. And Marcus, don't tell anyone I called." After ending the call, I systematically checked every entry point to my villa, then stood in the center of the room, thinking, James, or Kovac, had known exactly who I was and what my company did. The agents knew about him, yet something felt off about their credentials and questions. A soft knock at the door interrupted my thoughts. "Housekeeping," called a female voice. "Please come back later," I called back. "I have an envelope for..." You, Ms. Parker. Cautiously, I opened the door. A young woman in a housekeeping uniform handed me a resort envelope and quickly departed. Inside was a key card and a note. Storage room 3, maintenance building, midnight. Wear the resort spa robe. J. I slipped the key card into my pocket and destroyed the note. For the rest of the day, I maintained the appearance of a normal guest. I'd swimming in my private pool, reading on my deck, ordering lunch to my villa, all while watching, planning, and preparing for whatever midnight would bring. As sunset painted the sky in dramatic oranges and purples, I ordered dinner to my room and used the time to run deep security diagnostics on all my devices. The resort took on a different character as darkness fell. The romantic lighting that usually made everything feel magical now created too many shadows, too many places for secrets to hide. At 11:45 p.m., I changed into black swimwear, pulled the resort's white spa robe over it, and slipped the key card into its pocket. I left my villa carefully, walking confidently as if heading to the resort's night spa treatment, a service I'd specifically asked about earlier to establish a credible alibi. The maintenance building stood behind the main restaurant, partially hidden by tropical vegetation. My heart pounded as I approached storage room 3, every shadow seeming to hold potential threats. The key card worked with a soft click, and I slipped inside, closing the door behind me. The room smelled of cleaning supplies and fresh linens. As my eyes adjusted to the dim emergency lighting, a figure emerged from behind a tall shelf of supplies. "I'm sorry to drag you into this, Sophie," James said softly, his face half-shadowed. "But you were already involved before you ever set foot on this island." "What do you mean I was already involved?" I kept my voice low, though the mechanical hum of air conditioning units would mask our conversation from anyone outside. James moved to the small window, checking the grounds outside before responding. The bluish emergency lighting cast sharp shadows across his face, accentuating the tension in his jaw. "Your company's blockchain security protocol. It's not just good, Sophie. It's revolutionary." He turned to face me. "And that makes you both valuable and vulnerable." "How do you know about my security protocol?" "The specifics aren't public knowledge." My company had deliberately kept the technical details vague in our press releases. James reached into a maintenance locker and pulled out a tablet, its screen protected by military-grade encryption that I recognized immediately. "I work for Interpol's Cyber Crimes Division, specifically a task force tracking a group called Quantum Syndicate." He pulled up a complex organizational chart. "They're not just criminals, they're technological revolutionaries with a dangerous agenda. They've infiltrated luxury resorts worldwide, using them as meeting grounds for their operations. And this resort is one of them?" The realization sent a chill through me despite the room's warmth. "Their crown jewel." James swiped through several screens. "Think about it. Isolated location, wealthy clientele, complete control over communications infrastructure, and privacy as a selling point. Perfect for their purposes." He showed me surveillance images of familiar faces, the resort manager, Agent Thompson, and several staff members I'd encountered. The syndicate doesn't just run this resort. They use it to target specific individuals. You weren't randomly assigned Villa 47. They've been watching you for months. My mind raced through implications. "My friend Marcus booked this trip. He insisted I needed a break." James's expression darkened. "Does Marcus have access to your security protocols?" "He's my CFO. He has administrative access to company systems, but not the core architecture." A sickening thought formed. "Are you suggesting he's compromised?" "I don't know yet. But the timing of your vacation is suspicious." James pulled up another screen showing a conference schedule. "The Maldives International Cryptocurrency Summit begins tomorrow. Some of the biggest names in digital currency will be here, along with major financial institutions." I recognized several names on the attendee list, people whose companies used Parker Tech's security systems. "Wait, what's their plan?" "Your security protocol doesn't just protect cryptocurrency transactions, it can be modified to manipulate them." James pulled up a technical diagram that made my stomach lurch. "This is a reverse-engineered version. Of your system. See these patterns? I leaned closer, studying the code. What I saw was both familiar and foreign, like seeing a perverted reflection of my own creation. Those aren't statistical anomalies, I whispered, recognizing the patterns we'd dismissed during testing. They're backdoors. Exactly. Your predictive algorithm was designed to prevent market manipulation by identifying suspicious patterns. But reversed, it becomes a roadmap for causing precisely timed market crashes. James's eyes met mine. They plan to use the conference to launch a coordinated attack on the global cryptocurrency market, starting with a manipulated crash that will trigger panic selling. The implications were staggering. The economic damage would be catastrophic, and nearly impossible to trace back to them. James closed the tablet. Right, that's why I've been undercover with them for the past 15 months, posing as a security consultant with a history of gray hat hacking. Why reveal yourself to me? Why not just let me leave on tomorrow's seaplane? The question had been bothering me since his email. James's expression changed, a flicker of something unreadable crossing his features. Because I need your help to stop them. You built the original system. You're the only one who can help me disable their modified version without setting off their security alerts. Before I could respond, his head snapped toward the window. Security patrol, earlier than scheduled. He quickly doused the emergency light, plunging us into darkness broken only by moonlight filtering through the small window. We stood motionless in the darkness, barely breathing as flashlight beams swept past the window. I felt James's hand on my arm, steadying me. His breath was warm against my ear as he whispered, "We need to move to the server room. There's an access tunnel from here." When the patrol passed, James retrieved 2 maintenance uniforms from a locker. "Put this on over your clothes. If we're seen, we're just night shift staff." The access tunnel was narrow and humid, running beneath the main buildings. The resort was built with this extensive underground infrastructure to house utilities without spoiling the paradise aesthetic, James explained as we navigated the dimly lit passage. "Few guests know it exists. How do you know so much?" "About the resort's layout," a tight smile. "I helped design their security systems. The syndicate values my expertise, which has given me access most of their own people don't have." We emerged into a utility room and James checked his watch. The server room is monitored 24/7, but they're running on a skeleton crew tonight. To prepare for tomorrow's conference, 1 guard, 1 technician. How do we get past them? We don't need to. He pulled out a small device. This will create a technical emergency in the north side guest villas. Both will be called to address it. Creating a diversion with actual guests, isn't that risky? It's just a controlled power fluctuation. Minor inconvenience, no danger. James's confidence was reassuring, yet also disconcerting. Once they're gone, we'll have approximately 8 minutes before their systems flag the unattended server room. The device worked exactly as James described. We watched through a service door as alarms flashed on the technician's monitor, followed by urgent calls from multiple villas. Both the guard and technician hurried out, leaving the server room momentarily unattended. "Now," James whispered, guiding me quickly across the hall. The server room was state-of-the-art, racks of gleaming equipment with cutting-edge cooling systems keeping the temperature precisely controlled. James locked the door behind us and directed me to a specific terminal. "This is where they've isolated your security protocol. We need to neutralize their modifications without shutting down the system entirely." I sat at the terminal, fingers hovering over the keyboard. If I do this, I'm compromising my own technology. James's expression softened slightly. "I know what I'm asking, but the alternative is worse." Taking a deep breath, I began working. The system was indeed built on a modified version of Parker Tech's architecture, but with subtle and dangerous alterations. Lines of code I'd written with protective intent had been twisted to enable the very manipulations they were designed to prevent. But they've created a vulnerability that would allow them to trigger artificial cell signals across multiple cryptocurrency platforms simultaneously, I explained as I worked. It would look like organic market movement but actually be orchestrated. James watched the door. How long do you need? These modifications are sophisticated. I typed rapidly, identifying and neutralizing the malicious code. I can't remove everything without alerting them, but I can insert a failsafe. What kind of failsafe? A delayed recursive authentication loop. When they try to execute their manipulation, the system will appear to work initially, but then lock them out and alert global exchanges to the attempt. A small red light began blinking on the security panel. We're out of time, James warned. Someone's coming back. I typed the final commands and carefully backed out of the system, leaving no trace of our presence. Done. James guided me to a maintenance closet within the server room. In here. We squeezed into the tight space, my back pressed against his chest as we listened to someone enter the room. Security Override 447, a familiar voice announced. Agent Thompson, run diagnostic on cryptocurrency protocol. My heart pounded so loudly I was certain it would give us away. James's arm tightened around my waist, a silent reminder. To remain absolutely still. All systems nominal, responded the technician who had returned with Thompson. No anomalies detected. Increase surveillance on all priority targets, especially Parker, Thompson ordered. Tomorrow's operation cannot fail. They left after a few minutes, but James kept us hidden for an additional 5 minutes before carefully opening the closet door. And we need to get you back to your villa before they notice you're missing. The return journey through the access tunnel felt twice as long, my mind racing with what I'd discovered. As we approached the storage room where we'd first met, James paused. From now on, we can't be seen together. They'll be watching you closely. What happens next? I asked. The conference begins tomorrow at 10 a.m. You need to attend as if nothing has happened. He handed me a small earpiece, nearly invisible once inserted. This will allow us to communicate. Keep it with you at all times. As I prepared to leave, a question nagged at me. James, how did you know so much about my company's system? Even with your Interpol resources, that level of detail isn't public. His eyes met mine, and for a moment, I thought he might evade the question. Because 3 years ago, before I joined Interpol, I tried to hack it. A smile touched his lips. Your security stopped me cold. It was the most impressive system I'd ever encountered. With that revelation hanging between us, I slipped out into the night, making my way back to my villa. The luxury that had seemed so welcoming now felt like an elaborate trap, designed specifically for me. I awoke to sunshine streaming through my villa's panoramic windows, the ocean below a dazzling turquoise. For a moment, the beauty almost made the events of the previous night seem like a dream. Then I felt the small earpiece hidden beneath. My pillow wow in reality came rushing back. My phone showed 3 missed calls from Marcus. I needed to call him back without raising suspicion, knowing the resort might be monitoring communications. I stepped onto my private deck where the sound of waves would make electronic surveillance more difficult. Sophie, thank God, Marcus answered immediately. Protocol Obsidian locked me out of half our systems. What's happening? I kept my voice casual, as if discussing minor technical issues. Just being cautious after detecting some unusual activity. I'll explain. Everything when I'm back. How's everything running? The core architecture is secure, but clients are asking questions about the additional authentication requirements. Tell them it's a scheduled security enhancement. I'll be monitoring things remotely. I ended the call before he could ask more questions. The resort had delivered a conference schedule to my door, a glossy brochure highlighting keynote speeches and panel discussions about cryptocurrency's future. A personal note from the manager invited me as a special guest to the opening session. I dressed carefully in business casual attire, a light blazer over a silk blouse and linen pants, professional enough for the conference while still maintaining my cover as a vacationer who decided to attend. As I applied minimal makeup, I inserted the communication device James had given me, nearly invisible in my ear. The main conference center had been transformed overnight. Sleek digital displays showed real-time cryptocurrency market data, so while resort staff circulated with refreshments, I recognized several famous faces from the tech world, CEOs of cryptocurrency exchanges, blockchain pioneers, and financial technology investors. Testing communications. James's voice came softly through my earpiece. Don't respond verbally. Touch your left earring once if you can hear me. I casually reached up to adjust an earring. Good. I'm monitoring from the security control room. Thompson and Chen are circulating, identifying high-value targets. The keynote begins in 30 minutes. That's when they'll start positioning for their market manipulation. I made my way through the crowd, accepting a mimosa from a passing waiter to blend in. Several attendees nodded in recognition. My company's reputation preceded me even here. A Sophie Parker. What a surprise. A tall man with perfectly coiffed silver hair approached. Franklin Ward, CEO of the world's third-largest cryptocurrency exchange. I didn't know you were attending. Last-minute decision, I smiled. Shaking his hand, I was already at the resort on vacation. Fortuitous timing. Your security protocols have been revolutionary for our exchange. We've seen attempted breaches drop by 87% since implementation. In my ear, James's voice was tense. Ward is one of their primary targets. His exchange handles over $3 billion in daily transactions. Maintain your cover, but try to warn him subtly. Actually, Franklin. I lowered my voice. I've been working on some enhanced protocols. There have been concerning developments in how advanced actors are targeting exchanges like yours. Ward's eyebrows raised slightly. Oh, anything specific I should know about? Possible coordinated manipulation attempts. My team is monitoring closely. I'd recommend heightened vigilance over the next 48 hours, especially around large volume transactions. Always appreciate your insights, Sophie. Ward looked thoughtful. Perhaps we should discuss this further after the keynote. Sophie, James's voice came through my earpiece. Thompson is approaching your position. Remember, he thinks you know nothing. I turned to see Agent Thompson making his way toward us, his expression professionally pleasant. Ms. Parker, good morning. He nodded to Ward. Mr. Ward, I believe the keynote speakers are gathering for their pre-session briefing. Ward excused himself, leaving me alone with Thompson. I trust you slept well? Thompson asked, his tone conversational though his eyes were watchful. Very well, thank you, though I'm surprised to see such a significant conference happening during my vacation. A fortunate coincidence, he smiled. Your expertise in blockchain security is well known. Several attendees were pleased to hear you're here. Just observing. I'm still technically on vacation. Thompson's smile didn't reach his eyes. Of course, though expertise like yours is never truly on vacation, is it? The digital world doesn't stop evolving. The implied threat in his words was subtle but unmistakable. Before I could respond, a chime announced the keynote session was beginning. Attendees moved toward the main hall where rows of chairs faced an elevated stage. Stay alert, James whispered in my ear. The central presentation system is how they'll distribute the initial access codes for their manipulation software. I took a seat near the back, allowing me to observe the entire room. The resort manager stepped up to the podium, welcoming attendees to the future of financial freedom. His rhetoric about decentralized currency and democratized finance felt hollow now that I knew the resort's true purpose. The keynote speaker was a renowned cryptocurrency pioneer whose exchange had recently implemented ParkerTech's security protocols. As he discussed market trends and security challenges, I noticed Thompson and Chen positioned strategically by the main exits, occasionally touching their earpieces. Something's happening. James's voice was suddenly urgent. They're initializing their systems earlier than expected. The main attack may be coming before the keynote ends, not after. I scanned the room, trying to identify any unusual activity. At the technical booth controlling the presentation, a staff member I recognized from the server room was typing rapidly into a terminal, his actions concealed from most attendees. Incoming call for you, James continued. Your CFO, Marcus. They're routing it through the resort system. My phone lit up with Marcus's name. Stepping quietly out of the keynote, I answered in the hallway. Sophie, we have a situation. Marcus's voice sounded strained. Someone's attempting to execute administrator commands using your credentials, but the requests are coming through unofficial channels. Protocol Obsidian is blocking them, but they're becoming more aggressive. So keep the protocols active. I kept my voice low. Don't override anything, regardless of who asks. I'll contact you securely when I can. As I ended the call, I noticed Chen watching me from across the hallway. I forced a casual smile. CFO issues, always something. Business is never far away, he agreed, moving closer. Especially in your position. In my ear, James sounded alarmed. Sophie, they're moving up their timeline. Get to the control booth now. I'm heading there from security. You know, Chen said conversationally, blocking my path back to the hall. We've been following your career with great interest. Your security architecture is quite adaptable. The way he emphasized, adaptable, I confirmed everything. Thank you. Though good security should be rigid, not adaptable, unless you know exactly how to bend it. Chen's smile turned predatory. Which we do. A commotion from the keynote room saved me from responding. Attendees were suddenly checking their phones and tablets, expressions of alarm spreading across faces. It's starting, James warned. Multiple cryptocurrency. Exchanges are showing unusual trading patterns. They're testing the system. I pushed past Chen back into the main hall. On the massive display behind the confused keynote speaker, market graphs that had been steadily trending upward were now showing precipitous declines across multiple cryptocurrencies simultaneously. The failsafe I'd programmed the night before should have prevented this. Unless… James, I whispered urgently, they must have found and disabled my failsafe. Meet me at the server room, now. His voice was tight with controlled urgency. We need to implement the backup plan. As panic began spreading through the conference hall, I slipped away from the crowd. The luxury resort had transformed from paradise to battlefield, and the next few minutes would determine whether the global cryptocurrency market survived or collapsed under the weight of an attack designed with my own technology. I hurried through the resort's public areas, maintaining a brisk but controlled pace to avoid drawing attention. Guests and staff rushed past me, many glued to phones and tablets displaying plummeting cryptocurrency values. The manufactured panic was spreading exactly as the syndicate had planned. The maintenance corridor leading to the server room was unguarded. Everyone had been pulled to manage the growing chaos at the conference center. I pressed my back against the wall as two security personnel rushed past the intersection ahead. Sophie, what's your position? James's voice was tight in my ear. Approaching the server room from the east corridor, I whispered, Where are you? Security detected my access attempts. I'm rerouting through the underground tunnel. System, meet me at access point C instead. My mental map of the resort's layout snapped into focus. Access point C was near the desalination plant that supplied the resort's fresh water. Moving quickly through service corridors, I followed maintenance signs until I reached a heavy door marked Utility Access, Authorized Personnel Only. The door opened before I could try the handle. James pulled me inside a cramped control room filled with monitoring equipment for water quality and pressure systems. They moved faster than anticipated, he said, securing the door behind us. Thompson isn't just a syndicate operative. He's their head of cyber operations. He found your failsafe. We need direct access to their attack infrastructure. I moved to a terminal connected to the resort's main systems. From here, I can potentially access the server room remotely. They'll detect an unauthorized connection. Not if we use legitimate credentials. I pulled out my phone and dialed Marcus again through my secure line. Marcus, I need you to create a maintenance ticket in the system. Resort network connectivity issues affecting my villa. Request immediate technical support. James raised an eyebrow as I ended the call. Clever. They'll assign a technician to remotely access your villa's systems. And when they do, we'll have our connection. I began typing rapidly, preparing to intercept the remote access session. Within minutes, a notification appeared on the monitoring system. Technical support accessing Villa 47's network configuration. I quickly exploited the connection, using it as a bridge to the main server infrastructure. I'm in, I muttered, fingers flying across the keyboard. They've deployed a modified version of my security protocol's predictive algorithm. It's generating artificial cell signals across multiple exchanges simultaneously. James leaned over my shoulder, studying the code. Can you disable it? Not directly. They've compartmentalized the system, but I might be able to. I traced the execution path, looking for vulnerabilities. They're using a cascading authentication method. If I can force a validation error at the source, it could trigger a security shutdown. How long? 5 minutes, maybe less. The door rattled. Someone was trying to enter. James moved silently into position beside it while I continued working, sweat beading on my forehead despite the room's cool temperature. Hey, someone's coming, James whispered. The external panel beeped as access credentials were entered. James tensed, ready to intercept whoever entered. The door swung open, revealing Agent Chen with a security key card. His eyes widened in surprise, but his training kicked in immediately. He reached for his concealed weapon, but James was faster, disarming him with practiced efficiency. Lock the door, James ordered as he secured Chen with zip ties from a maintenance kit. I continued coding while James questioned Chen, who remained stubbornly silent. The cryptocurrency values on the monitoring screen continued their artificial freefall. Major exchanges were halting trading, exactly as the syndicate had planned, creating market chaos they could exploit. Got it, I finally announced, implementing my countermeasure. I forced their system to require physical authentication. From the main server room terminal, someone has to physically press enter on that specific keyboard for the attack to continue. Thompson will do it himself, James said, checking his watch. We have maybe 3 minutes before he realizes what's happened. That's not all I did. I couldn't help the small smile of satisfaction. I've also activated a hidden protocol in my company's security system. It's broadcasting an authentication signature that flags these transactions as manipulated. Every exchange using our security will receive the warning. James looked impressed. You built in a backdoor of your own. Not a backdoor, an emergency broadcast system, for exactly this type of situation. I stood from the terminal, but Thompson can still override it from the server room. We need to stop him physically. We can't just walk into the server room. Security will be on high alert. I glanced at Chen's uniform and security badge. We don't need to walk in. We just need to cut their access. 2 minutes later, but we were moving purposefully through the service corridor toward the main power distribution center. James wore Chen's security jacket and badge, while I carried a maintenance tablet displaying legitimate-looking schematics. The server room has backup power, I explained as we walked. But there's a 30-second delay between main power failure and generator activation. During that window, all physical security locks default to a secure state. Trapping Thompson inside, James finished the thought. Exactly, and their attack requires continuous execution. A 30-second interruption will destroy the specialized timing algorithm they're using. We reached the resort's main electrical room. Using Chen's credentials, we gained access to the primary distribution panel. I located the server room circuit and prepared to trigger a targeted outage. Ready? I asked. James nodded, hand on his concealed weapon. Do it. I flipped. The breaker. Somewhere above us, alarms would be sounding as the server room plunged into darkness. I counted down 30 seconds before restoring power. Now we need to move, James said, checking his earpiece. Security channels are chaotic. Thompson is demanding backup at the server room. We took a service elevator to the main level, emerging near the conference center where pandemonium had erupted. Attendees were receiving notifications that the cryptocurrency crash had suddenly halted. Exchanges were identifying the manipulation and reversing transactions. Sophie, a voice called from behind us. I turned to find Thompson approaching, his expression a mask of controlled fury. I believe we need to talk about your interference in resort operations. Guests moved past us, oblivious to the core confrontation unfolding. James tensed beside me, but I placed a restraining hand on his arm. We were in a public space surrounded by witnesses. "Mr. Thompson," I replied calmly, "I'm simply a guest experiencing technical difficulties with my villa's connectivity. Perhaps you could explain why my company's security protocols are being used to manipulate cryptocurrency markets." Thompson's smile was cold. "Accusations like that could be considered defamatory, Ms. Parker, especially without evidence. Evidence like server logs showing access attempts using my credentials? Or perhaps the modified version of my proprietary algorithm currently being distributed to exchanges worldwide with a security alert." A flicker of uncertainty crossed Thompson's face. Behind him, resort security personnel were approaching rapidly. "It's over, Thompson," James said quietly. "Interpol has been monitoring this operation for months. Your syndicate made one critical mistake." "And what's that?" Thompson asked, hand moving subtly toward his jacket. "You tried to use Sophie Parker's own system against her." James nodded toward the approaching security team, which I now recognized were not resort staff but undercover agents. "And you didn't realize your own security consultant was working against you?" Thompson lunged suddenly, grabbing my arm and pulling me against him as a human shield. I felt something hard press against my side, a concealed weapon. "Nobody moves," he hissed. "We're going to walk calmly to the seaplane dock." Guests began noticing the confrontation, some backing away, while others raised phones to record what they assumed was resort drama. James remained still, eyes locked on Thompson's. "That won't work," I said calmly, despite my racing heart. "Your operation is exposed. Every cryptocurrency exchange has received notification of the manipulation attempt. The evidence is already secure." "Shut up," Thompson tightened his grip. "Start walking." I caught James's eye, giving a nearly imperceptible nod. As Thompson forced me to take a step toward the exit, I suddenly went limp in his grasp, a self-defense technique I'd learned years ago in a corporate security course. The unexpected dead weight made him stagger, loosening his grip just enough. James moved with startling speed, disarming Thompson in a fluid motion as I rolled away. The undercover agents converged, securing Thompson as confused guests were escorted from the area. "Are you okay?" James asked, helping me to my feet. "Fine." I straightened my clothing, adrenaline still coursing through my system. "Though I think my vacation is officially ruined." James actually smiled, the first genuine smile I'd seen from him. "I think we can arrange a better one, after the debriefing, of course." The next 12 hours unfolded like scenes from a thriller movie. The resort was placed under temporary lockdown as Interpol and local authorities secured the premises and detained syndicate members. Guests were informed of a security incident, requiring additional precautions, but most remained unaware of the true scale of what had transpired. I was escorted to a secure villa on the far side of the island, where a makeshift command center had been established. There, I met Director Eleanor Hayes, the head of Interpol's Cyber Financial Crimes Division. "Ms. Parker," she greeted me with a firm handshake, "your assistance has been invaluable. The Quantum Syndicate has been on our radar for 3 years." The command center buzzed with activity. Analysts monitoring cryptocurrency markets, agents coordinating with financial institutions worldwide, and technical specialists securing evidence from the resort's compromised systems. "The market stabilization is proceeding better than expected," Hayes explained, gesturing to displays showing recovering cryptocurrency values. "Your emergency broadcast protocol gave exchanges the validation they needed to identify and reverse fraudulent transactions." "What about my CFO, Marcus?" I asked. "He booked this specific resort, which seems suspiciously convenient now." Hayes exchanged glances with James, who had been debriefing with another agent. "We've been investigating that connection. Initial evidence suggests Marcus was manipulated rather than complicit. The syndicate hacked his personal accounts months ago, using subtle influence techniques to guide his decision-making." The relief I felt was profound. Marcus had been with me since Parker Tech's earliest days. "The resort has been operating as the syndicate's base for nearly 5 years, James explained, joining us. "They acquired it through a series of shell companies, Most staff members were legitimate hospitality workers unaware of the operation. Their business model was elegant, Hayes added. A legitimate luxury resort generating actual profit while serving as cover for their cyber operations. They targeted high-net-worth individuals and executives with access to valuable systems. Like me, I said quietly. You were special, James said. They've been studying your security protocols for months, looking for vulnerabilities. When they couldn't find any, they decided to manipulate you into coming here where they could apply pressure directly. A tech specialist approached with a tablet. Director, we've completed the preliminary analysis of their systems. You'll want to see this. Hayes reviewed the information, her expression darkening. The resort operation was just one component of a larger network. They have similar setups in the Seychelles, Bali, and the French Alps. Everywhere wealthy tech executives vacation, I observed. Exactly. This wasn't just about cryptocurrency manipulation. It was a long-term operation to gather intelligence and access to multiple financial systems. Hayes turned to James. Agent Kovac, we need to coordinate with the teams at the other locations immediately. As Hayes moved away to make secure calls, I found myself alone with James for the first time since Thompson's arrest. So, Agent Kovac of Interpol, I said, studying him with new understanding. Is any part of what you told me about yourself actually true? A flicker of amusement crossed his face. Most of it. Surprisingly, I did try to hack your system 3 years ago, but as part of a security assessment, not a criminal operation. Your defenses were impressive. And the South African accent? Gabriel, born in Johannesburg, raised in Cape Town. The international security consulting cover story wasn't far from the truth either. Around us, the command center continued its controlled chaos as the full scope of the syndicate's operation was uncovered. Reports came in of simultaneous raids at other luxury resorts worldwide. What happens now? I asked. Extensive debriefings. Your testimony will be crucial for prosecuting Thompson and dismantling the rest of the network. James hesitated. There's something else you should know. Your security system wasn't just targeted because it was effective. It was targeted because of how you designed it. What do you mean? Most security systems focus on building higher walls. Yours is different. It adapts and learns. The syndicate believed if they could control it, they could create the perfect tool for market manipulation. He looked at me with genuine respect. You built something truly revolutionary, Sophie. A technical analyst interrupted us. Ms. Parker, we've isolated the modifications they made to your security protocol. Would you mind reviewing them? There are elements we don't fully understand. The next several hours were spent in deep technical analysis. I worked alongside Interpol's cyber team, tracing how the syndicate had attempted to weaponize my technology. The elegant maliciousness of their modifications was disturbing yet fascinating from a purely technical perspective. As evening fell, I found myself standing on the balcony of the command center, watching the sunset paint the ocean in shades of gold and crimson. The beauty of the Maldives remained breathtaking, despite everything that had happened. James joined me, offering a cup of coffee. You should get some rest. Tomorrow will be another long day of debriefings. Hard to rest when my mind is still processing everything. I accepted the coffee gratefully. My technology was nearly used to destabilize global financial markets. That's not something I'll forget easily. Your technology also stopped them, he reminded me. The emergency broadcast feature you built in, was that always part of the design? I nodded. After the financial crisis of 2008, I became interested in how digital systems could be used to either prevent or cause financial manipulation. The broadcast feature was my insurance policy. I just never expected to use it personally. We stood in companionable silence, watching the stars appear one by one above the Indian Ocean. What about you? I finally asked. Back to undercover work after this? Actually, I'm due for reassignment. James leaned against the railing. This operation was always intended to be my last deep cover assignment. Retirement? He laughed softly. Hardly, but perhaps something with fewer assumed identities. His expression turned serious. The director has offered me leadership of a new task force focused on cryptocurrency security. Given recent events, it's become a priority. Sounds important? It is. And we could use a technical consultant with intimate knowledge of blockchain security systems. His eyes met mine. Someone who's proven they can think like our adversaries while maintaining ethical boundaries. The implication was clear. Are you offering me a job, Agent Kovac? A collaboration. Your company would remain independent, but with a formal advisory relationship to Interpol's Cyber Financial Crimes Division. He smiled slightly. Consider it making official what we've already started. The prospect was intriguing, a chance to ensure my technology was used as I'd intended, to protect rather than exploit. I'd need to discuss it with my board. And there would be questions about jurisdiction and confidentiality. Of course, there's no rush for an answer. James checked his watch. Your official debriefing starts at 9 a.m. tomorrow. You should try to get some sleep before then. As he turned to leave, I called after him. James, thank you for trusting me with the truth when you didn't have to. He paused in the doorway. In my line of work, trust is rarely an option. It was refreshing to find someone worthy of it. The next morning brought a flurry of activity, formal statements, technical debriefings, and coordination with financial authorities worldwide. The cryptocurrency markets had stabilized overnight, the attempted manipulation largely mitigated by rapid response. Director Hayes called me into a private meeting room where she and James were reviewing evidence. Ms. Parker, we've arranged for your return to San Francisco tomorrow morning. A secure transport will take you directly to your company headquarters. What about the syndicate members still at large? I asked. We've identified most of their key operatives through, the resort's records. International warrants are being issued. Hayes slid a folder across the table. This contains the official non-disclosure agreement regarding this operation, along with Agent Kovac's proposal for future collaboration. As I reviewed the documents, Hayes was called away to handle an urgent communication, leaving James and me alone again. So, I said, looking up from the densely worded legal agreement, is this how all your vacation acquaintances end up? Signing classified documents? His smile reached his eyes this time. Only the special ones. He became serious again. Whatever you decide about the collaboration, your company's security protocols saved countless people from financial devastation. That's something to be proud of. Looking at James across the table, no longer a mysterious stranger, but not quite a friend, I realized how dramatically my perception had shifted in just 3 days. What began as a chance meeting in paradise had evolved into something neither of us could have predicted. I never did get that relaxing vacation Marcus insisted I needed, I mused. Perhaps not, James acknowledged. But I hear the French Alps are beautiful this time of year, and coincidentally, Interpol's next operation against the syndicate's Alpine resort won't begin for at least a month. Is that an invitation, Agent Kovac? Let's call it a brain check. He extended his hand formally. Until next time, Miss Parker. As we shook hands, I knew this wasn't an ending, but a beginning of something new. A partnership forged in deception, but founded on mutual respect and shared purpose. Whatever came next, the stranger I met at a luxury resort had irrevocably changed my life's trajectory. And somehow, I was perfectly fine with that. 6 months after the events in the Maldives, I found myself in a sleek conference room 40 stories above San Francisco. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered panoramic views of the bay, but my attention was fixed on the presentation I was delivering to Parker Tech's board of directors. The Interpol collaboration has already yielded significant results, I explained, gesturing to the security metrics displayed on the screen. Since implementing our enhanced protocols across 17 major cryptocurrency exchanges, attempted manipulation attacks have decreased by 76%. Marcus Crow, now fully cleared of any involvement with the syndicate, nodded approvingly from his seat. After thorough investigation, Interpol had confirmed he was an unwitting participant. His travel recommendations subtly influenced by sophisticated social engineering techniques targeting his personal accounts. "And the proprietary aspects of our technology?" asked Diane Wilford, our chief legal officer. "The confidentiality measures are sufficient." "More than sufficient," I assured her. "The collaboration agreement preserves all our intellectual property rights while allowing us to contribute to global financial security." The meeting concluded with unanimous approval to extend our Interpol advisory relationship for another year. As board members filed out, Marcus lingered. "Quite a change from where we were 6 months ago," he observed. "From near catastrophe to industry leadership." I smiled, gathering my materials. Sometimes the best opportunities come disguised as disasters. "Speaking of opportunities," Marcus handed me a sleek envelope. "Your flight's confirmed for tomorrow. The team can handle things while you're gone." "It's just a week," I reminded him, accepting the envelope. Inside were first-class tickets to Zurich. "A well-deserved week," he countered. "After everything that happened, you still haven't taken that vacation I prescribed." As Marcus left, my phone buzzed with a message from an encrypted number. "Weather forecast for Zermatt. Perfect conditions. Secure transportation arranged from airport." I smiled to myself. James Kovac was nothing if not thorough. The syndicate investigation had expanded dramatically since the Maldives operation. Thompson was cooperating with authorities as part of a plea agreement, revealing an organization more extensive than initially believed. 3 more luxury resorts had been identified as syndicate operations and quietly raided. My journey from tech CEO to Interpol advisor had made me an unusual bridge between private enterprise and international law enforcement. The collaboration James had proposed had evolved into a specialized task force, combining corporate security experts with government agencies, a model now being replicated for other cybersecurity threats. That evening, I stood on the balcony of my San Francisco apartment, watching twilight settle over the city. My phone rang, a secure line established specifically for task force communications. "Everything set for tomorrow?" James asked without preamble when I answered. "Tickets, accommodations, and a reasonable excuse for my absence all arranged," I confirmed. "Though I'm still not entirely convinced this qualifies as a vacation." "The operational component is minimal," he assured me. "Just a preliminary assessment of the Alpine Grand Resort before we move against it next month. The rest is genuine downtime. Skiing by day, intelligence gathering by night. Very relaxing." His laugh was warm through the connection. "You could have declined and missed the chance to see the great Agent Kovac on the beginner slopes." "Never." Our relationship had evolved into something neither of us had anticipated, a partnership built on mutual respect and shared purpose, with an undercurrent of something more personal neither of us had fully acknowledged. "Yeah, the dossier on the resort manager should reach your secure server tonight," James said, returning to business. "Review it before you arrive, if possible." Already done. Martin Reeves, formerly of British intelligence, discharged under questionable circumstances in 2018, joined the resort security team 3 months later. Impressive. Director Hayes was right about you. We discussed operational details for another few minutes before the conversation drifted to more personal matters, his recent visit to his family in South Africa, my ongoing work with a tech education initiative for underserved communities. After we said goodbye, I finished packing for Switzerland. My life had developed a satisfying duality, continuing to lead Parker Tech's innovation while secretly helping dismantle criminal networks targeting the financial systems we helped protect. The following evening, I arrived at the Alpine Grand Resort as darkness fell. Snow-covered peaks loomed against an indigo sky, and light spilled from the resort's windows onto pristine snow. The grand entrance, with its stone facade and towering wooden doors, projected exactly the image of exclusive luxury that had made it perfect cover for the syndicate's operations. "Miss Parker, welcome," the concierge greeted me with practiced warmth. "Your suite is prepared. Mr. Kovac arrived earlier this afternoon and asked me to inform you he'll meet you in the Alpenglow Lounge at 8. My suite was impeccable, A masterpiece of alpine elegance with panoramic mountain views and every imaginable comfort. Yet I couldn't help scanning for the hidden surveillance I knew likely existed in a syndicate property. Our technical team had equipped me with counter-surveillance tools disguised as ordinary travel items. At 8 precisely, I entered the resort's signature lounge, a sophisticated space of dark wood, leather, and stone centered around a massive fireplace. James sat at a corner table, his back to the wall and sightlines to all entrances, old habits that matched my own. He stood as I approached, and for a moment, I was struck by how different he appeared from our first meeting in the Maldives. The calculated casualness had been replaced by a more authentic ease, though his watchful nature remained. "You made good time from Zurich," he said as I took the seat opposite him. A bottle of champagne chilled in a silver bucket beside the table. "Are we celebrating something?" "The beginning of a well-deserved break." He poured 2 glasses. "And perhaps the successful navigation of an unusual partnership." I raised my glass. "To unconventional beginnings." "And unexpected alliances," he added, his eyes holding mine. Around us, wealthy guests enjoyed their evening in blissful ignorance of what the resort truly represented, or of the 2 people quietly working to dismantle the operation concealed behind the luxury facade. Tomorrow would bring its challenges. Careful, intelligence gathering, mapping the facility, identifying key personnel. But tonight was about recognition of how far we'd come since that chance meeting in another luxury resort half a world away. "So," James said, settling back in his chair, "should I be concerned about your skiing abilities, or were you just questioning mine?" "I grew up in Colorado. I was skiing black diamonds before I was 10. His laugh drew glances from nearby tables, a genuine moment of amusement from a man who lived mostly behind carefully constructed facades. Outside, snow began to fall, adding another layer of pristine white to the mountainside. Within days, this beautiful resort would be exposed as a criminal enterprise, its hidden operations dismantled. But that was a problem for future U.S. For now, it was enough to sit across from the mysterious stranger I'd met months ago, no longer a stranger, but not quite definable as anything else, and appreciate how the unexpected twists of life sometimes lead exactly where you need to go. The champagne sparkled in the firelight as we clinked glasses, conspirators in the best possible sense, writing the beginning of a story neither of us could have imagined. Sometimes the most remarkable journeys begin with a chance encounter in paradise, and sometimes they're just getting started. What did you think of the story? Leave a comment and a review about this story. If you were moved and enjoyed our work, feel free to help us continue producing. I invite you to click on our link in the first pinned comment. Now, 2 buttons will appear. One to subscribe, if you haven't already, and the other to watch other interesting stories. Choose one. Thank you for watching this far. See you soon.